All right. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for joining me today. My name
This
is.
meeting is being recorded.
Oh, this meeting is being recorded. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Jameson Parker, and today we will be having a tech talk on making the leap into the future with a focus on building a career in tech. As I said, my name is Jameson Parker. I am currently a UX engineer for Google. I just started at Google this March, actually. 3 years prior to that, I worked for Adobe as a senior application engineer and front end engineer. Today, I look forward to sharing my journey with you and leaving you with some tips on getting started in your own tech career. So, today's agenda, we will be talking about the tech industry kind of in a general overview. I will quickly go over my journey. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I think it's more important that we talk about how you can get started on your journey. Um, but if you'd like to know more in depth about that, I definitely have some slides to kind of take you step by step on my steps from Murrah High School to Jackson State University to Hines Community College, and all the way up to where I am today. Um, so after we talk about my journey, we will talk about making the leap. We'll talk about what you can do to start on your path towards a career in tech. Then we'll go over some common questions that people have about joining the tech industry, working in the tech industry. I have some examples of resume tips. We can also talk about how you can get started in building your portfolio. And then I'll go over some resources with you where you can go for tutorials, where you can go to learn different learning platforms. And at the end, we'll have time for some questions and answers. So, all right. So getting into it, the tech industry. So many people that are interested in the tech industry have probably heard of the acronym FANG, or now Mang, since Facebook is now Meta. But FANG generally stands for Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, some of the largest tech companies out there. And a lot of them are located or headquartered rather in Silicon Valley. But the good news is the tech industry has it's always existed throughout the United States. It's recently kind of blown up due to, when COVID happened, a lot of people had the opportunity to work remotely and work from home. I have the opportunity to work from home about half of my weeks now. And so that means that there are exciting opportunities everywhere. And special shout out to the Beam Path, Dr. Cephas and her team, her staff at the Beam Path for bringing a focus, bringing that attention of the tech industry right there to Jackson, Mississippi, my hometown where I grew up. That means the world to me. I'm glad to be able to be here today to speak with you all. I will be talking about different sectors within the tech industry. And I have a very few of them listed here. We see electronic devices, internet, cloud-based products, software and services, hardware, equipment, mobile apps, but the list goes way beyond that. So no matter what you might be currently into now, what hobbies you may have, one of the things I love about the tech industry is there's room for you to bring all of that to the table. So more like things I love about the tech industry, of working in the tech industry. There is a real creative freedom that comes from working in the tech industry. My background is as a classically trained pianist. That's actually how I met Dr. Cephas and her sister Whitney. We went to performing arts school together growing up. From music to gaming to graphic design, photography, product design, you name it, videography, like you name it. There is room within the tech industry for you to get involved. It's encouraged that you bring those hobbies and that creative side of you to the table. Um, uh, when you come into the tech industry, it's not all about, it's not like STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That is like within the DNA of the tech industry, but it's so much more than that. So don't feel like you have to, be a guru of those subject matter of those subjects to be successful in the tech industry. That's not true. If you are a solution driven person, you'll be great in the tech industry because it is about problem solving. We solve problems daily on a small level to a global level. And and it's actually fun. You get to bring value to communities and to people. That's what I was going to bring up next. Is in tech, we connect people with people, and then we strengthen communities by connecting people with services. So if you're interested in the tech industry, I encourage you to pay attention today and have your questions ready, because I really want to be a resource to you. It's my goal to help you understand that I didn't always know how to get into the tech industry, but if I could do it, then I'm certain that the rest of you can do it. And I hope to give you some tips today to help you help you get there yourself. So I have about 10 slides that I'm going to skip. I can go back through them later, but they're basically, I go step by step about my path towards where I am today. But this slide here should really kind of just gives us a quick overview of my journey. I left when I graduated from Murrah High School. I went to Jackson State to study computer science. I was, as I mentioned, at that point, I had been a piano performance student for about 7 years. So music was in my DNA. Music was my passion. When I got to Jackson State, they dropped this big Java book on my desk when I started computer science. But before I even decided to major in computer science, I had to make a choice about what did I want to do when I left high school, because music was my passion, but I was also interested in technology and like the cutting edge of technology. So I reached out to an uncle of mine who worked in the tech industry, and he worked for Northrop Grumman actually, and he would tell me about all the exciting things that he was working on in the tech industry. He would tell me about like he worked as a structural integrity analyst, so like he would look at the structure of airplanes and material sciences, and what pressures can they withstand, and that kind of thing. And it was just really really awesome to me. And so that's, hearing about that, I was like, okay, well, I think I'm going to choose computer science. So I went into the direction of computer science, got to class, and they dropped this huge book on my desk, this Java book, and I think I have a slide um, to that kind of touches on that. Yeah, they dropped this huge Java book on my desk, and it was kind of a shock to me. Uh, I wasn't quite ready for what that was. When they put programming on my desk, it it was it hard? Like, I won't say that it was hard, but it was something so new to me. This was 2005. This was before the iPhone came out, which was in 2007. So it's not like I had the concept of mobile apps in my mind, or I didn't know exactly what I could do with programming language just yet. I had the book in front of me. I had all of this new information in front of me, but I wasn't sure of what the power of that really was. I didn't have that end product in mind yet. And that's one of the biggest differences is in today, you will see that there's so many ways to get into software development today, which is just one sector of the tech industry, mind you. There's also a lot of others we can talk about, but um, uh, what I found out was that um, over time, the barrier to entry, like this for me at that time, was a pretty tall wall to get over. But today, I really sincerely feel that that's quite the opposite. There is still a lot to learn, but there's so many interesting ways to learn it. So going back a little bit to the quick version of my story, I didn't finish my computer science degree uh, at Jackson State. So when I after my sophomore year, I actually got a call from a friend that summer between my second and third year in computer science, who was working at a record label in Atlanta, Georgia, and so that record label turned out to be Grand Hustle, and they were looking for an in-house producer. And so I was, if you can imagine a kid that played basketball, to me that was like the NBA calling if I was playing basketball. So I said, let me go and pursue my passions. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I stayed there for about a year working in the music industry, producing music. But I quickly found out that everything isn't what it looks like on TV, right? So uh, I had a lot to learn about working in that industry, but ultimately, fast forwarding a little bit, I decided to come back to Jackson, Mississippi, and continue my education. So that's when I went to Hines Community College. I graduated from Hines Community College with 2 degrees in drafting and design. There was just an additional 2 classes I needed to take for that 1 degree to become 2 degrees, one in architectural and one in general drafting and design, like mechanical parts. So I left there knowing how to 2D and 3D model. Fast forward a little bit, I attended a friend of mine's graduation from Full Sail University in Florida. And at Full Sail University, that's when I started working with film and working in video games. And so taking my passion of music and 3D modeling now, I was able to create 3D environments. I was able to create smart music, or that's when I really first started to program again. I was and when I say program this time, I wasn't coding yet. This programming was a form of programming called node-based programming or no-code programming, which is basically where you kind of draw nodes from. Excuse me, let me go here. So node-based programming is kind of like where you draw nodes logically. So if I start from starting from when the game starts, if you were to follow this kind of logic on screen, you see that we the game starts and then we want a delay for 0.15 seconds. After that delay is completed, we want to do the next thing, set a value. After that's completed, we want another delay of a small amount of time, and then play a sound at a certain location, and we provide that location. So like I'm able to program interactions without actually writing code. And so this was actually kind of a pivotal point for me, because it allowed me to really kind of get back into the world of programming again. So so fast forwarding a little bit, because I want to get to uh, where I can help you all get started on your path. Um, I found myself, let's see, after I finished Full Sail, I found myself with 3 degrees now, but still I hadn't grown financially. I had certifications, I was providing value, I was going above and beyond. And still, for some reason, I couldn't figure out why my career in tech just wasn't taking off. I wasn't sure what I was doing wrong. I was dotting every I, crossing every T, giving companies my best. And like I said, I still was having trouble getting traction. So I reached out to my brother who lived in Sacramento, California, and I asked him, if I could come out there and try my luck in Sacramento, a little closer to Silicon Valley, and he had my back, and so I came out to Sacramento. I joined a software company actually as a technical support engineer. And for me, in my mind, that was getting my foot in the door. I was like, okay, I'll work for the software company as a technical support engineer. I was basically answering the phone calls. My brother and I started an MBA program together, and following tutorials, I actually wrote some small applications in the form of Chrome extensions, which is like little plugins you can create to work inside of the Chrome browser. And I helped improve performance within my department in tech support by a measurable 40% by creating tools that I was able to hand out to my team. So I was like, surely this will like help me get started and help me get this career going in the tech industry. But I was not promoted. I was asked by managers like, can you do more of this? Like this is awesome. But when I went in to negotiate about what they might be able to do for me, I was kind of just I would get drug on, like I wasn't able to still get past that glass ceiling. When I finished my MBA, I was still making the same amount that I was making. I was still making like around 20, $23 an hour. And this is now at this point, I have 4 degrees. In my mind, I was like, let me get these degrees because this is what's going to make the difference in my tech career. Um, it didn't. And so I was fortunate enough to find a mentor. And this is one thing we'll talk about a little bit, but I encourage you all to find a mentor too. I have some slides where we'll talk about how you can go about doing that. But I met a front-end engineer who had previously worked for companies like Apple, Yahoo, Walmart, Salesforce, and others in the Bay Area. And he agreed to be my mentor. He taught me some extremely valuable lessons. He asked me why I wasn't applying for actual developer positions. And these are the types of things that I would say at the time. I didn't have a degree in computer. I hadn't finished my degree in computer science. I had taken some classes on coding, uh, but I didn't feel like I was good enough. And I was like, I'm nowhere near that good to actually apply for those jobs. He asked me how I created the small projects that I had been working on already. And I told him I looked it up on the internet. I watched tutorials. I asked questions online, and I kind of just figured it out. I just kind of grinded it out until I was able to actually create some of my first little uh, small apps, like my small little pieces of code. And he told me that, what do you like? He was basically like, what do you think software development is? Like, no one knows it all. No one knows how to do everything right out of the gate. It's about being able to solve those problems. It's about being able to use the resources that you have to work your way towards a solution at the end of the day. So he encouraged me to join a boot camp, which I did. A boot camp is basically like a 3 to 6 month program where you just really focus on, like, every day, kind of just trying to learn how to focus on a specific set of skills. I'll talk about what those specific set of skills were for me, but there's lots of different areas that you can go into, in the avenues you can take in the tech industry, and those skills might be different for you. So um, after I followed the advice of my mentor, I have to say the next 12 months sincerely changed my life. Um, he helped me take my resume from what I thought was a really good resume, and he helped me turn it around to where my resume originally was kind of focused at, I was expecting some person for my resume to land on their desk and then take a look at it and consider me. He taught me that a human is not the first person to see your resume, is not the first thing that your resume has to get through these days. It's search filters. It's like there's thousands of people posting resumes online every day. So he taught me how to cater my resume to really shine through in search filters, or on LinkedIn, updating my LinkedIn profile with the right words, the right terminology. And I'll show you examples of this, because I'm pretty sure that these are changes that most of us can make, that will will help us get noticed a lot faster. But within 6 months of getting through this boot camp, I had landed my first job as a CMS, a content management systems developer for the city of Oakland. It was a small 3-month contract. My mentor always encouraged me to not work full time when you're just getting started in the tech industry. He told me to work contracts, and I can explain why. But it's about increasing your hourly rate, which is something that once he taught me, I've been applying it ever since, and it sincerely works. But for the first time, I had doubled my salary. I had doubled my hourly rate, where I was previously at 20 something an hour. Now I was in the upper 40s an hour. And that was the first time since all of my degrees. Mind you, my mentor didn't have a degree. I've had managers who don't have a degree. And some of the most talented software engineers out there that I've met honestly don't have degrees. This is an industry where you can be self-taught. But after that content management position was over in 3 months, I had already lined up my next job, which was at Adobe. And I was always a fan of Adobe. Working in music and film, I had always been using Adobe products. So I was super excited to get that position at Adobe. And I was in a situation where my hourly rate was about to double again. And then 3 years after that, I was hand selected by Google, and they found me on LinkedIn. They reached out to me on LinkedIn to join their team as a UX engineer. So all of this happened, well, from me working in tech support and really trying my best to get my foot in the door. It took me having to unlearn some things that I had learned throughout my early years of trying to grow. I had to unlearn some things and learn some new things about how to approach my career. And I hope to share some of those things with you today that will make the difference. So let's keep going. It's now your turn. So I'm going to help you. We're going to talk about some of the things you can do to basically just put the right pieces in place to start and build a career in tech. Now, um, I'm a front end engineer or UX engineer. What I do is I build websites, I build web applications, I build mobile applications. So I'm going to kind of focus most of what we talk about next on that road. But but some of these same things can apply to you in whatever role you want to look at. So before I actually go to the let's see, before I go to the next part where I talk about specifically what I do, really quickly, I'm going to switch over to another screen that I'm sharing, and I want to show you some other positions that are available within the tech industry. Let me see how I can do this. Let me share. Let's see. I want to share here. All right. Let me know if hopefully you can see my screen. Um, but so I'm going to scroll up to the top of this list. This is a list of some of 41 of the top 41 job titles within tech. Because I want you to understand that you don't have to be a coder. You don't have to be a programmer. Lots of other uh, there's lots of other high paying careers available in the tech industry. So quickly, I'm just going to go through a few of these on this list, but there's marketing technology. So marketing technologists, basically, they have these. They focus on the skills that are just really good communication skills, learning how to connect with people in the industry. I don't want to spend too much time going on over all the little details, but I want you to see the average salaries of some of these positions. You can see what some of these job descriptions look like. SEO consultants, that's search engine optimization. That's basically helping sites rank higher in search results. Web analytics, studying users' behavior when they come to your website. Like, what are they clicking on first? Where are their eyes trained on the page? That kind of thing. There's digital marketing. There's social media management, growth hacking, getting members to come to a platform. Content management. Like I said, my first job was content management. And mind you, as a content management specialist, guess what my job was? I was basically copying and pasting data from one system to another system. That's about it. It was still technical, but in the general, I went from 20 something an hour to 40 something an hour, and my job was basically copying and pasting data from one system to another system, to a newer system. I'm going to get back to the presentation, but I just wanted you to see that there's so many opportunities for you to get in, and it's not all about just coding. So let's see. One second. By the way, if you have questions, feel free to drop them. Let me get back to. Hopefully the slide is showing now. Should be, or it'll show up in a second. So all right. So I said that we're going to get you from learning basics to building your portfolio to creating your resume and then getting hired. That's the name of the game. So for me, the basics are, or in my, oh, I see we have a question coming in. I'm a graphic designer and I often think about pivoting from marketing to UX or UI design. What is the difference between designer and engineering and engineer code? Thank you, Andrea. So you're currently a graphic designer, great. I work with graphic designers every day. You want to pivot into marketing. So interestingly enough, um, when I worked at Adobe, um, I worked directly with someone who basically would hand me designs from the marketing team. So working, if you're saying you want to work or you want to move from marketing to UX or UI design. So marketing and UX often they work in something that they use to mock up designs. So basically, something like a program called Figma or even Photoshop, they have mock-ups of what they want the website to look like. But what a UX or UI designer or engineer, what the difference is coding. You're right. So we use these building blocks actually that I have on the screen right now: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These three fundamental skills will sincerely take you to the moon. So learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, they're not hard, they're not difficult. You can learn a little bit of each of these and work magic, seriously. So, but your job when you're moving from marketing and graphic design to UX engineering or creating the website, you're actually using these three skills to to code uh, to code the website. I actually have some examples prepared. Hopefully, we have some time to go through some of those, and I'm even happy to show you what that looks like. But yeah, I encourage you the leap from marketing and graphic design. If you're doing graphic design, you actually already have a critical skill that you need to do UX engineering. I won't say that you need, but it's something that just is awesome to have, and it really helps you have an eye for design when you're working on CSS. CSS, well, I'm actually going to talk about that in a little bit. I'm going to talk about each of these in a little bit. But as a graphic designer, CSS is going to be your best friend. All right, so common questions. Um, uh, do I need a degree or formal education to get started in this industry? No, you don't. That's kind of surprising to some people, but you don't need a degree to become a software engineer or work in tech. Um, it definitely helps, but it's not a must-have. A lot of times on job descriptions, you'll see a degree or equivalent experience. So yeah, so you'll see a degree or equivalent experience. And equivalent experience can come in many forms. So what skills do you need? You need some hard skills. So when I say hard skills, I'm talking about a basic understanding of the toolbox that you will use in your career. So that's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, like I mentioned. You need to be generally good with computers, um, good typing skills, effective communication skills, and then logical problem solving skills. A lot of times, coding is just it's problem solving, but you're doing it in a way that's like if user does this, then do this. Like user clicks this, then open this window, for example. But you also need to have some soft skills, like being a good communicator. You want to have a positive attitude, be a good team player, be dependable. Because at the end of the day, you're working with people in sometimes a very fast-paced environment, and you just want to be you want to be a nice person to work with. How can I get the required experience? I encourage you to build a portfolio, and I'll talk about how you can build a portfolio. Because sometimes some jobs say, like I said, do you have a degree or do you have the experience? Well, it's like, well, how do I get my first job? How do I get that experience? Some of what I did was I volunteered to work on projects that other developers were working on. But really, one of the easiest things to do is just follow online tutorials. They're plentiful. They're out there. They're on YouTube. There are thousands of tutorials that you can follow step by step. And once you get to the end of that tutorial, basically, it's almost like being handheld in the beginning, where you are copying what someone else is doing word for word, line for line, line by line. But once you finish each tutorial, you actually have something that you've developed. You have a working website, you have a working small application, and that now becomes part of your portfolio. And this is an important thing for you to have when you are looking to when you're looking to start applying for jobs. It's important that you can prove your skill set, because this is the type of industry where it's not about do you have the degree. It's like, can you do the work that we need to do? And if you can prove that you have done the work, you can show examples of work you've done, that's oftentimes good enough. So is it better to be a full-time worker or a contract worker? there's pros and cons to both ways of doing it. There's benefits that come with being a full-time worker, but one of the secrets that help one I won't call it a secret, but one of the tactics that really helped me grow my career early on was um, contract positions are usually 3 to 6 months to a year or something like that. But the benefit of doing a contract position is that during that time frame, you already have a nice job. You're gaining experience on the job, but you also can keep interviewing with other companies during that time. And since you're already making or you're already earning a certain amount at the current position you're in, um, you're not you already know a number that you're not willing to go below. So so you can use every job you get as like a stepping stone or a bargaining chip to say, well, I'll take this next position. um, After a successful interview, you say, I'll take this next position, but it gives you leverage to negotiate. And and um, and so that's what I did, and I was really almost able to double what I was earning at my current job every time I moved up to my next job. And so that was the first time in my life that I saw that kind of change. So that's what being a contract worker did for me. Once I got into a position that I really enjoyed, I said, okay, I'll take some full time and then benefit from those full time benefits. Um, I see we have a few more questions coming in. It says, I'm working to become a project manager. This is from Tiffany Brown. I'm working to become a project manager. I'm interested in working in tech as a PM. What can I do to better understand the area? So one thing, one tip that I found that really works, that gives you some real world experience in this area, is there's a website, Upwork.com. Upwork.com is a website where you can go and find freelance developers that are working in the tech industry, or they're out there. They're software developers, they're web developers, and they're looking for projects to work on. What I would do is come up with a website that you want to see done for yourself. Maybe it's your own portfolio, maybe it's your resume that you want to turn it into a website, for example. Well, as a project manager working in the tech industry, your job would be managing a team that's working on some type of website or product. Oftentimes, it might be a different sector, but for this example, we'll go with that. And then, so you can often find you can for less than $100 sometimes you can hire someone to actually work under you to work on a project based on specifications that you lay out for them. That is a great way to gain experience managing a team or sometimes an agency, a group of people working together to bring your vision to life. You will find, excuse me, you will find that I found, because I've done this a few times, it's sometimes it's I learned I needed to work on my project management skills at one point, because I'd communicate what I wanted done, and then what they'd give me was not what I had in mind. And so I would realize, okay, I need to do a better job at communicating my needs. Um, so that's a great way for you to say, hey, I managed these projects. This is what I wanted them to do, and this is what I was able to manage them to get done. So I recommend looking for freelancers and on sites like Upwork.com, upwork.com, and that's a great way to get started. Um, Andrea says, I'm a graphic designer. I often think about. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I already saw that question. Jason said, the YouTube landscape can be vast. How do I come up with a reasonable plan to ensure I'm learning things that could be essential to my job hunt? I actually have a tab pulled up um, where I can show you specifically. Um, well, it's just a key. It's a key. It's about searching for the right thing, like you said, Jason. So um, I recommend that you search for tutorials for the job title that you're actually looking for. For me, it was I wanted to be a front end engineer. I wanted to be a web developer or UX engineer. All of these are those different titles are basically the same thing in this industry. And there are tons of tutorials out there for beginners. You can specifically type in beginner, but there's tons of tutorials out there for beginners that will take you literally from step A to step B to step C. They take you from concept to finished project. And one of the things I want to get to, um, very quick. Let's see. I'm going to go through the rest of these common questions because I want to talk to you about learning how to learn, and then resume. Um, talk about resume. So, uh, how can I get the required experience? We did that. Full-time contractor. We talked about that. How can a mentor help me? So, a mentor is what a mentor made all the difference in the world for me. Um, uh, they've been where you are and they know where you're trying to go, and they can really help you get, understand the steps to getting there and overcoming those obstacles. And they're really great to have to practice interviewing with. What should you look for in a mentor? Experience. You want patience and the spare time to help you when necessary, but really you just want someone that encourages you to challenge yourself, because you'll need to keep pushing it when you first start out, but it gets fun along the way. Don't worry about it. So, where can I find a mentor? Reach out to the staff at BeamPath. I hear that's a great place to go for help getting information on the tech industry. You can reach out to me. I'll provide my information, and I'll see about trying to make the slides available later so that you all have something to reference and look back at. And you can find someone already working in the field that you're interested in, and reach out to them with questions. And most of, like I did that, people do that to me almost daily on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to help share my resume, all of that. So what is coding? Is it hard to learn? Coding is writing software, and software is just a set of instructions, data, or programs that a computer that you use to operate a computer or perform specific tasks. Um, and coding is not hard. Coding is actually fun. Um, that is one of the common misconceptions, that learning to code is hard. It is not. Believe me, it's not. I know it when you first look at something, it might look foreign to you, but it actually makes very, very good sense. It's logical. You don't have to be great at math, and you don't need a ton of money to start. If you have a computer and an internet connection, you can learn to be a software developer. All the software that you even use to write software is free. There's paid versions, but there's free versions of everything. Um, so, what kind of personality is best suited for the job? Is it collaborative, independent? The short answer is that it depends. I've worked on some teams that have been actually very high stress teams, um, and it takes you to have a very thick skin to work on environments like that. I'm working at Google right now, and some of the most amazingly kind, nice, patient people I've ever worked with. Large team, always happy to help. Those soft skills I mentioned earlier, those are the kind of things that you want to just bring to the table: a willingness to learn, willingness to ask questions, and it'll get you to the next level. So how do you improve a skill set once you get a foot in the door? Um, when you have a foot in the door, for one, you're already doing better than a lot of tutorials because you're getting real world experience. But if you continue to ask questions, find solutions to the problem. Like when sometimes you run into problems that you feel like you don't have the skill set to solve. But that's where the job of problem solving kicks in. As a software developer, that's what we do. We solve problems. We figure out a way to get to the solution. And a lot of times it means Googling the answer or looking at a forum, talking to other developers. There, you'll get there. Like I've never had a problem that I couldn't solve eventually. So I encourage you to just go for it. You'll get there. Um, and can you have a career in tech without coding? I mentioned earlier, absolutely. There's plenty of other jobs out there: project managers, product managers, recruiters, you name it, you name it. So one of the things that is really important when you're going into the tech industry is learning how to learn. Um, it's learning the code is fun, like I said, but one thing, when I was a freshman out of high school going into looking at software development for the first time, I hadn't learned how to learn. And and when I say that, what I mean is, I'll touch on each of these, but really quickly, with tutorials, coding along to tutorials, don't worry. And this was a big one, not worrying about knowing it all the first time. Sometimes you'll start off watching tutorials. You won't, you'll be following along, coding along. You won't understand what you're coding. You see something to make you scratch your head, but you just keep doing it anyway. And what you'll see is over time, things will start to make sense. It's like, oh, I see how this is working now. Things will click. Like you might do the same thing 5 times, but the sixth time it clicks, and it's hard to explain what that, how how that works, but you truly learn by doing and learn by repetition. That is what I mean when I say learning how to learn. When you first approach something and it's frustrating because it's not clicking, that's fine. That's actually a natural part of the process. But just keep sticking with it, and I guarantee you that you will learn it. It will start to sink in. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit because I only have a couple of minutes left. Um, but I was going to talk about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which were the skill sets that I use. But I really quickly want to talk about resumes. Um, I have a before and after example of a resume. Hopefully you can see this a little bit. This is one of my old resumes several years ago. Um, but what you'll see is I'm talking to a person in this resume. I'm writing out all these details about what my experience was, what I did, what my responsibilities were, and this doesn't. Oh, my monitor went out. Hopefully you can. Okay, there it is. So yeah, this was before, and so the main thing I want to talk about is show you is this is my new resume, and I had this section on the bottom left for technical skills. This section right here is not it's not really there for a human to see. That this is something that helps me get picked up in search results. When someone is on LinkedIn looking for someone who's familiar with a certain technology, and they type that technology in, if I have experience with it, it's on my resume, and that gets me noticed by that gets that this right here, this changing this format. Notice on every position I've had, I have a skills section listed beneath it where I list every like technical piece of software that I use or every technical skill that I apply. It's about the right keywords in the right places. Having those keywords there made a tremendous difference in how much I was contacted for positions. And then you want to build your portfolio, as I said earlier. Use YouTube. Use Upwork.com if you want to be a manager. Hire people to work on projects for you, and save everything that you do in your portfolio. This is what you need when it says if you don't have a degree, have equivalent experience. This is your experience. It's free. It's free or low cost for you to go out there and get that. And then there's the interviews. Interviewing is a skill that you grow by practicing. I did probably 20 interviews, no lie, before I got my first successful interview. And every time you do a interview, you will learn. You learn from those unsuccessful interviews. So it's not really a failure, or if it is, you think of it as failing forward, because they might ask me a question. Well, what is they might ask me, what is something that I may not have come across yet in my learning? Well, a lot of times they will tell you when you don't know. They're happy to still explain it to you, but then you end up getting a call like, sorry, we're going to go with a different candidate. But you write that down, you now know how to answer that question. If you do this over and over and over again, be excited about those interviews that you're nervous about, because you will learn something from it. You'll take something from it that will make you more successful in the next interview. And eventually, you will just gain confidence, and you'll be comfortable with it, and doors will open. I promise you. So I have some resources here. Someone asked about what to search for on YouTube. I have some resources here, and I'm going to try to make these slides available. But Scrimba.com, this first one up here, I highly recommend it. Scrimba.com is one of the most unique learning platforms I've ever used. They're very interactive courses that teach you how to do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can actually pause the video and type where the instructor is typing in the video. Like it's very unique. Freecodecamp.org is a free resource that will teach you all of the necessary skills that you need, but it's more of like it's kind of like reading a book, but there's exercises for you to do. It's a very, very nice, clean website that will get you going on your right path. StackOverflow.com is basically a forum where all web developers go eventually for answers. It'll be your best friend. And then MDN are Mozilla's developer docs. Mozilla's a browser, but they're developer docs. are an incredible resource. Anytime you see a word you don't understand, an acronym you don't understand, or a concept you don't understand, go to that website and look it up, and you will find a lot of information that breaks it down, shows you examples of how to use something, and it's gotten me through. It's helped me solve a lot of problems over time. So thank you for your time. I'm going to hopefully we have some time for questions and answers. Um, let's see. I'm just checking right now to see if we have any questions. Yeah, we do. So let me check on some of these questions right quick. So I've already answered some of these that I saw in the chat. Jason, YouTube landscape. All right, Nicholas said, I'm currently a physical therapist and I've been looking to change direction to get into tech. I'm currently enrolled in the data science prep program, and then I plan to enroll in the data science boot camp after that. But the transition to learning new skills has been difficult for me. Do you have any tips on how I can make the transition smoother? Sure. So when you first get into first started trying to get into tech, it is baffling how much information is out there. It is hard. It is sincerely hard to know what to focus on, because there's probably 20 different tools, 10 different languages that you could learn to accomplish a certain task. But there's a one resource that I like to use. There's this website called Can I Use? I believe that is caniuse.com. Yeah. So it's called caniuse.com. I'm going to share. Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen right quick. Let's see. So caniuse.com is a website that basically you can look up a technology. Every time I share a page, it wants to play the audio, take the audio from that page instead of my mic. Sorry. So um, caniuse.com, and I just clicked on one skill here. But there's when you're looking to learn a technology, you can see, well, how popular is this already in the industry? How many people are using this thing, and it does it work on these different browsers that are out there, like Internet Explorer for this thing. I'm not sure even what I clicked on just now, but Internet Explorer, for example, in the red, you see that it's not supported here, um, but you can see, like, globally, 71% of developers are using this thing called declarative shadow DOM. And you can see how, when you see how popular something is, usually that's a one-to-one on how well documented something is. So when you're looking to go down the path of learning a skill, you want to make sure that there's a learning a new skill. You want to make sure that it's well documented, because you might see this new thing pop up. You might say, oh, I'm gonna try to use that, but then you go to try to dive deep and you can't find anybody talking about it. There's no one to ask questions about it. But you can use a resource like Can I Use to see how popular something is. Does it work on modern browsers or in modern working environments? And that'll kind of give you shed some light on which path is a well-traveled path and a place where you can go. And there's lots of resources to help you learn. But you want to, Nicholas, you want to focus on a certain. You want to narrow your focus towards a goal. So when there's a ton of stuff to learn, you want to figure out, all right, what do I want to accomplish? And then when you start looking at what you want to accomplish, you can, when you set out on that path and you start looking at the specific questions that kind of get you from point A to point B of what you're specifically trying to accomplish, you will learn a tool set. You'll learn a tool set of different applications you can use or different skills that you need that will actually lay out a path towards that goal. And that, when you don't have that end goal in mind, you're just wanting to learn data science, there's infinite things out there for you to learn. But when you have a specific goal, I want to understand the demographics of the population right here in this small county in where I stay, and I want to know if the drinking water is up to par in that area. Now you have some specific data. that you can go and get, and then you can query that data and compare points of that data. You say like, oh, I want to compare something from 2019 and 2022, and you can go out there and now you know exactly what building blocks you're looking for, and now you can actually apply what you're learning to specifically solve one problem at a time, which is what data science software is all about. Software development is often about. It's just solving one problem at a time. You break down that huge problem into manageable tasks, and that's kind of what the day-to-day process is like for people working on tech teams. You take a big task, you break it down into small achievable bite-sized units, and then that's what actually makes something big and hard to understand smaller and easier to understand and accomplish. um, Someone said, do you have any advice for the types of work that folks who could be doing, excuse me, do you have any advice for the types of work that folks could be doing who are currently not in tech and want to get into tech, specifically for those who are not seeking technical roles, but roles in marketing, like product managers? So earlier in the beginning, I said that if you have a passion for creativity, no matter what it is, I don't get, like, if you're a skateboarder or if you're into photography or fishing, whatever, there are companies out there that are trying to market to that industry, and there are tech roles at that company. They will require tech roles, um, and that might be in the form of marketing manager or product managers, product marketers. Um, uh, there's so many subcategories within the tech industry. Like, for example, even technical writing. When you are so you're not coming from tech and you're looking technical roles, in marketing, for example, every software company has to market their software, right? They have to reach their audience. They have to get their products out there. So um, there is a liaison between the marketing people and the tech team, and there's probably hundreds of roles. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I know, for example, working at Adobe, there's tons of teams. Even at Google, I work for the Google store. So marketing, we have. If you go to Google, the Google store right now, you'll see, if you scroll down the first page, you'll see all these amazing animations of products opening and closing. These are ideas that come from the marketing team. These like, I actually don't work on that part of it. Those are marketing people that are coming up with those things, and there are teams that specifically work on bringing their vision to life. So yeah, there's room for you to come in with those skills. Now, the skills that you should probably be or have under your belt is being able to show that you do know how to reach a target audience, or just have a way to kind of connect the dots between your interest, the industry that you're interested in, or the specific sector that you're interested in, and bring value to the table. And there's lots of ways to bring value to the table. And when I say lots of ways to do that, I sincerely mean it. Sometimes people feel like they don't belong in the room, but all of you have a unique experience, and there are a sector of customers out there that also uh, would benefit from you having that unique experience. Am I still sharing the screen? um, that's fine. I want to go into, let's see, we have a question from Keenan. Are there any popular and important forums, summits, or conferences that you would recommend going to for those looking to get into tech? That's a great question. There are. There are conferences all the time. I'm trying to think of some of them specifically by name. I actually have a conference that I'm going to for user experience engineers in New York coming up in September. Uh, uh, so I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but there are tech conferences that happen all the time. The reason I can't think of them right now is because since we came out of COVID, all the tech conferences, like, all that stopped for a while. So there now, I can speak to me, with my background being music and working in the music industry. South by Southwest is a big is a great place. Oh, CES is another one. Consumer Electronics. I'm not sure what that S stands for, but CES is another um, type of conference. But these are products though. Um, um, so South by Southwest is like music related projects and that kind of thing. Um, CES is more consumer electronics, but all of this is still within the umbrella of the tech industry. But then you have conferences that are specifically about like JavaScript or web development or, like I said, UX engineering. These conferences, I recommend Googling them or looking them up. They are plentiful. One other thing though, locally, that you can benefit from is meetup.com. If you're not familiar, meetup.com is a place that you can go, is a website you can go to meet up with other people in your area that are interested in a specific industry. So you can meet up with other web developers, you can meet up with game developers, you can meet. This is a great way, a great opportunity to find teams to work with to start, like, when you first start trying to start a tech career, you may not feel like you're ready to get that first big job, but you can watch tutorials. You can get experience by working with people already working on projects and say, "Hey, I'd like to work on your project. I'll just make the buttons that are on the home page," and or something like that. And believe me, they'll probably need the help, and you'll benefit from um, working with teams like that, because when you're by yourself working on a project, that's one scenario. But when you're working with a team, there's actually a lot more that goes into that, because there's a central storage place where that code is stored, and you check out a little bit. You check out like a file at a time to work on that, while someone else may check out another file, and then you check that work back in, and then that other person needs to update what they have so that it includes the changes you made. So this is the type of experience that comes from having opportunities to work with a team versus working solo. So um, let's see if we have any other questions. Yeah, we do. You mentioned Figma earlier. Any other software we should be looking into learning? So Figma is just one of many programs out there that I think Figma actually has a free tier. It's one of many programs out there that lets you do the same thing as several others. It's similar to Photoshop. It's similar to Adobe Experience. Um, there's a free one called Gravit.io, Gravit.io. These are all programs that basically do the exact same thing. Canva.com is a great free resource to do the same thing, and it's all mocking up designs. You can use these programs to kind of just drag and drop elements to a blank canvas, a header, a title, a picture, and you can say, and you can kind of lay out your vision for what a mobile app would look like, or what a website would look like, what it would look like on a TV, or what it would look like on a tablet or a mobile phone, or a laptop. All these different sizes of media consumption devices. Yeah, there's all of these. There's a ton of software out there that you can use to do some of the same things. I recommend just kind of picking one, because the skills are often transferable. So don't try to learn Photoshop and Figma, and no, just learn the one that you like working with. Watch some tutorials to help you learn that one, and usually, like, when I interviewed at Google, they didn't say, "Do you know how to program using this specific language?" No, they're like, what's your tool? What's your like set of tools of choice? Like, what's your weapon of choice, so to speak? It was HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for me. Those three basic skills. They say, okay, build this thing, build this small application using whatever tools you want to use. We'll just ask you about why you chose to do things the way you did them later. It doesn't matter what languages that you learn. If you could come up with the what they asked for at the end, that's all they wanted. And so there's a lots of different paths, and a lot of times people can get caught up in that in that there's so many different ways of accomplishing the same thing in the tech industry, that people like start one way and then they start learning another way and start learning another way, and they kind of spread themselves out thin. But you don't need to learn everything. Those three skills I gave you, or that I mentioned, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, open up so many opportunities if you want to be a developer. But there's like we talked about, there's far more out there than just that type of that lane in the tech industry. I'm going to go back and look through these questions one more time. I want to make sure I didn't leave anything out, but please, if you have questions, uh, reach out. I'm going to give my email address again. My email address is jamesonvparker@gmail.com. I'm going to go back to sharing these slides. Go back to my first slide right quick. Let's see. We're about I believe almost out of time now. So um, let me go back to sharing this screen. But yeah, so hopefully my information is on the screen. If not, it'll show up in just a moment. But yeah, my name is Jameson Parker. My cell phone number, if anyone has any questions or would like to ask me anything or some advice on something in the tech industry, my cell phone number is 601-750-5692. That's 601-750-5692. And my email is jamesonvparker@gmail.com. I hope you learned something today. Thank you for attending. But yeah, that's all I have. I think I'm going to turn it back over